Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really looking forward to chatting. For people who do not know you, could you give us just a very brief intro of who you are and what you do?
Hey everyone, I'm Hannah. I am the co-founder and CEO of Darcy. Darcy is an AI agent that makes planning events seamless and frictionless. We believe that from sort of the idea onwards to the sort of last dance or last cheers, that the experience should be less stressful, less frictionless, and actually a joy to plan rather than sort of the pain in the process.
Amazing. And I think often, you've got kind of clear domain expertise having come from the event space. So it'd be super interesting to kind of hear from you, like, what is maybe the core insight or the thing which you built Darcy on?
Yeah, of course. I had always throughout my life had a really strange passion for events. It took me a long time to figure out sort of where that came from. Sort of why do I love not only attending them. I think, everyone likes a good party. Everyone likes going to sort of special things. But I would be looking at the people organizing it, and I would be looking at the sort of rigging and the lighting and thinking, how do they put that there? And oh my goodness, what production crew is working on this? And I realized that not everyone thinks like that. So I thought, okay, that's really interesting. It goes back to my mum used to be in the fashion industry. And then when she had me and my sister, she went to be a textiles teacher so that she could be around for us more. She was traveling all the time with work. And because of her fashion sort of knowledge and expertise, she would put on fashion shows every year for the students. It was called Innovation Week, and they would get in big production crews, and they would do these huge shows with crazy stages, crazy lighting. They do like grass runways or big circular runways or like everything.
Oh my God.
And I would go to them when I was like 5, 6 years old, and I'd run around after my mum when she was speaking to all the staff. And I think it really, really rubbed off on me. Not only like lights, camera, action, like, wow, this is so cool, but actually like the intricacy of the production behind it. Anyway, carried on with my life, ended up going to Oxford, and I did history there, which was great. But I've always said that sort of my real learning at Oxford was nothing to do with sort of the academics. I found that I sort of was organizing events left, right, and center. I think my busiest term, I did like 52 events.
And what kind of events were you doing at Oxford?
I was so lucky to go to Oxford, I say, because actually, whilst it is incredibly academic and everyone works really hard, there's also this work hard, play hard culture. And so we have the big college balls, and they have something called Varsity Trip, which is like the biggest winter sports trip in the world. And they take 3,000 students out, and they do 30 events in a week in the French Alps. And it's crazy. And so I got to get involved in all of that stuff. And then through my society, I'd be organizing stuff. And then with Varsity, I was organizing like dinners and big concerts and with headliners and all that stuff. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I got to work with some mega budgets. And for me, that was an unlock, because it made me realize, okay, this is not just like a £30 student budget. Like I've ordered like Domino's pizza and I've booked a college room.
You've gone all out. This is next level.
I've really gone all out, and I've actually got like
you got 4 Domino's pizza instead of 2.
Exactly. So like I could do cool things, right? Like I could get lighting, I could get production, I could get headliners, and that really lit a fire in me. And I was like, this is cool. I've got the money to do things that I could push the ball out. Like I give effort to this. Like this will make people have a better time. And so it got to that point in third year where I think everyone panics and they go like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my life? And I'd, been very heavily involved in the very like corporate scene, and I'd been chatting to lots of people doing internships and all that stuff. And I just thought, I just don't want to do that. And I think if you know that you don't want to do that, then you shouldn't do that. And so...
And sorry, out of curiosity, what was the kind of thing which made you go, like, I don't want to do that? I mean, like, to give you a very specific example, like, I didn't get to uni, and there was one very specific example. I remember trying to write my personal statement, and it just didn't flow. And kind of my idea was, if it's not flowing, then I probably shouldn't go. So maybe I would love to hear your example of something like that. Yeah,
absolutely. Mine's a little bit similar, really. It's that you realize that you don't like you realize you're sat there and you think, if I can't do this, then what's the point? So for me, when I say I was involved in the corporate scene, I was president of Oxford Women in Business. And that meant that naturally we were involved in lots of corporate things. I was always interviewing and sort of on panels with lots of amazing, incredibly successful people in finance and law and consulting. And I would take the Webs down to London and see all these amazing firms, and we would go on tours, and they would come and sponsor us. And throughout that entire thing, I was sat on many stages and I was asking lots of questions. And I realized that whilst I was doing it for the Webs, I genuinely had no personal interest in this whatsoever. And actually, by having to think of questions that I would try and think were interesting to ask, I actually couldn't because I didn't really care.
Yes.
That was the truth.
Yeah.
And I think that I realized, like, if I can't even fill a 20-minute interview with things that I want to ask these wonderful people about their wonderful careers, then clearly I'm not passionate about it, and it isn't for me.
Yeah.
Whereas I would think of events and I was like, yes, like look at this really cool thing they're doing, and oh my goodness, I wonder how they made that look like they were walking on water.
Yes.
Or how did they recreate that scene from that movie? Or why did they decide to do that instead of this? And so I decided to go and work in luxury events, and I was working specifically in weddings with an ultra high net worth clientele. Most of it was under NDA, and it was a fantastic sort of nearly 2 years of doing that. Wonderful team, amazing like projects that we got to work on. It really hammered home that I absolutely love the experience sort of economy. I felt very lucky to be even on site experiencing these things, and it really just taught me that the love that I felt when I was like 5 or 6, like following my mum around when she was telling the production crew what to do, and then I got to do that and got to see it finished was really sort of my passion. And I only decided to step away from that and to go and work at a startup because I realized that actually I want to make an impact on the industry outside of working in it.
Yes.
And for me to do that, I needed to learn how to grow a business. So that was sort of why that decision came about.
Yeah. And during those like nearly 2 years that you were doing the, mostly NDA stuff, so you can't talk about that in so much detail, but maybe like more experience sides, what are the kind of things which you took from that experience that when you're building Darcy, you thought, okay, if any kind of product we do, we need to make sure that we are doing these things based on those 2 years.
Absolutely. I've spoken a lot about sort of looks and AV and production and oh my goodness, the floristry we used to have was amazing. Like I can't even describe to you how utterly beautiful and curated and designed everything we did was. It was pristine. It was perfection. There was nothing, not even a flower head that was even slightly brown. Like it was that level. But actually the real learning for me was all in the guest experience and the time and effort that we took to make sure that the guest experience was perfect.
Okay.
Be it actually we're going to move the marquee 2 feet forward because that would mean that like we're going to see the sunlight slightly differently in that marquee and then it's going to like flood it with light. Even things like that, right? Like, that's what we were thinking about. And it was all about making sure people felt that those 24 hours or those 3 days or even, just that ceremony was one of the most impactful feelings they'd ever had. And they walk away thinking, wow, what have I just felt? What have I just experienced? And that really lies at the heart of Darcy, honestly. Everything we do is to make sure that not only do the host love Darcy, but the guests love Darcy too. So from the invitation onwards, we curate the guest experience on their side. We are asking them if they want help booking a hotel or transport to the event they're going to. If it's suddenly flipped and the weather's now really horrible and we've decided to move it inside, we're telling them that in advance so that they can make appropriate plans. If it's that they have specific dietary requirements or that, we need to tell the caterer something different, then we do that on their behalf and we make sure that they're sort of communicated about that has been sorted out. I think that sort of goes both ways to appease the hosts because they don't have to deal with all of those sort of individual requirements and all that sort of admin stress, but it also works to nurture the guests to feel that they're very welcome, they're very wanted, and this is an experience that has been curated for them.
100%. And I also think that, to your point of we need to move the marquee 2 feet, it's the admin stuff is handled, so then you have the headspace to think about those small details which make a difference.
Exactly.
And I think it'd be also good to kind of understand, great, so you do those 2 years at the kind of high-end net worth events company, and like what's the kind of moment or kind of like jump start which you go, okay, like now I want to start the company?
Yeah. For me, it was timing and also just confidence, I think. So the events industry is, particularly weddings, is very seasonal. So you have an incredibly hectic summer, sort of May till October time. Practically, I was out of the country. I say I didn't really live in London until like this year because I just felt like I was never there. And so it got to end of the second season that I'd worked and I realized, I have a little bit more time now to think about sort of bigger questions. And I realized that the reason I went into that role and I wanted to learn more about planning and get that experience was always with the end goal of doing something more sort of around the industry rather than in it. I wanted to think about it broader in a more broad fashion than sort of being insular inside of it. And so I had the chance to think about that. But I also had I realized that I needed to have when I say confidence, I needed to have the confidence to do that. And I realized in myself that I didn't quite have that, because I looked at founders like they were the superhuman. And I was like, wow, look at those people. I could never do that. That's what an incredible thing they're doing. How did they come up with that idea? How did they have the motivation and passion and know how? They must know things that I don't know. And I realized that. So I thought, and I listened to lots of talks and I read lots of books, and it always said, go into the startup world to learn about it. And so I thought, great, that's what I'm going to do. So around December time of last year, I actually used Jumpstart to find my next role. I was the growth lead at Claren, and I started that job in January time. It was an amazing 6 months. I think the team are fantastic there. I think the work they're doing is incredible. Like, the product is fantastic. And I really grew my confidence. I learned incredible things from the founders. I thought they were utterly wonderful founders to learn from. Their communication style, the way they led the business, they thought so clearly and strongly about things. But also you learn that they are normal people who just work really hard and are incredibly passionate. And I knew that my passion was events, and I just had to push myself to sort of make that next step.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of, I guess it's a bit like that moment when your parents are always those people you look up to, and then suddenly when you become a bit older, you see them on an equal playing field. I think it's kind of a similar parallel to what you're describing, when you realize that these people are just the same as you in a sense. And so tell us more about the product itself and how that kind of started. That's the first part, and then the second part, we'd love to know about the kind of co-founder matchmaking.
Yeah, of course. So the product itself, so the idea obviously came from my background in events. I knew that I loved it so much that I would plan anything and everything. Whatever you need organising, just give it to me, honestly.
I know to ask for any event thing now. It's perfect.
Genuinely, people are always like, gosh, you're very passionate, aren't you? I'm like, yes! Give me your pressure. And I love it. But then my friends were like, my God, I've got to organize this. And I was like, brilliant. They were like, no.
I've sent you a 50-page Notion doc. Don't worry.
Literally. They were like, and then I would talk to sort of friends who are a little bit older, or sisters of my friends, and they were like, oh, I'm planning my wedding and it's really stressful. I was like, no, it's wonderful. Wow. And they were like, no, it's terrible. I hate it. I don't know who to pick my caterer. I spent all my budget on my venue. Floristry quotes are coming back 3 times more than I thought they would. My guest list management is out of control, and I've got 10 WhatsApp groups with these people everywhere. Photographers are coming back and asking me for shot lists. I don't even know what that is. How do I stay on track with everything? How do I manage my budget? Who organizes it on the day? Do I have to go and talk to the florist when I'm meant to be hair and makeup? All this stuff. And I was like, whoa, guys, calm down. It's all gonna be fine. Talk to your planner. And they were like, we don't have a planner. And then I started looking into it, and I was like, goodness me, of course they don't have a planner. They're really expensive. And planners typically, let's say in the UK, between £5,000 and £8,000, which is a lot of even a good budget in the UK. Let's say you're spending £30,000 on an event. That's a lot of money, but £8,000 of that is a lot. That's a big chunk. That's what you would be expecting to spend on half your venue, for instance. So is that really money you can dedicate to that human support service? Then I started looking into planning solutions, and I realized that a lot of them are directories. And so they might tell you, oh, this is a beautiful venue, but that's about as far as it goes. It will give you the email, but then you're on a 3-week chaser with the venue who send you a brochure where the price isn't kind of matched because you need this requirement and this requirement, so you have to go back with that. You wait to hear from them, and you're in this endless loop. And the sort of incumbents in this AI space, like ChatGPT and Claude, do the same. They'll give you these recommendations. They might be a bit more tailored because you can tell them what you want, but then you're still sent on the same chase. You don't know the price, you're given the brochure, and it just sort of stops there. Darcy fits in that wedge. So we're for the 99% of people who don't have the planner. The idea is that you talk to Darcy, and she'll ask you all the questions that I would have asked in a planning consultation. And it is obviously springboarded against the answers you give. So if you tell us that you have family members with accessibility requirements, we'll ask you a little bit more about that. If you tell us that you would really love, I don't know, arancini for your starter, we'll ask you a little bit more about that. And so we build up this picture in sort of a 20-minute conversation. I call that an enriched bubble of information. And we use that to then find you the perfect vendors. We do all the outreach, and we then have it in this beautiful sort of software that you can come back to. will then handle all the communication and get you to that point where you can go on a site visit and make the booking. It also keeps you on track with everything. So Darcy is sort of always thinking ahead, reaching out to people. So you can come back, and even if you haven't looked at it in 4 days, progress has been made on your behalf, so that you can get your photography quotes in, you can book your videographer, you can book your caterer, and it's all still spinning while you're, working your job and with your children and living a busy life. The next steps of that are that we launch our beta. So that's happening in September, and we're going to take on, it's really exciting. It's next month, which is it's come around so quickly. We've only been going for about 60 days. So I don't, we're getting there. But Darcy's already working with 5 clients, and the 30 that we're going to be working with in September are very, very exciting to us.
Yeah.
And the 5 clients we've got already are across a really wide variety of events. It's a couple of weddings, some corporate stuff, and then some experience stuff as well. So that's very, very, very cool. And we'd love to see her in that sort of diverse space. But then, and you also asked about the co-founder story, and that's it's a really interesting one. I looked for a co-founder like up and down. Like honestly,
tell us about that search. Like, where did you look? What went wrong? Kind of.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I looked everywhere. I mean, the first place you look is your network, right? So I remember I would like subtly go out of the coffee with my friends, and I was like,
so tell me.
Have you ever thought about families? I was like, honestly, I see, like genuinely that was like,
it's like you're dropping like, do you know Paul Graham?
I honestly, that was like the stuff I was doing. I was going around there like, so like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, have you ever considered SF? Like, that was like, honestly. And obviously they were like
sorry, I'm just trying to order my matcha. Like,
yeah, like literally. And I'm there really trying to schmooze them. Like, the YC deadline.
Yeah, it's coming up. We've got 3 weeks, guys. Come on, get coding.
I think we should do a work sprint together. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm very happy with my job at BCG. And I was like,
great, okay.
I respect it. Okay?
Yeah.
So that kind of led me to some dead ends. But that's okay. And, you obviously need to work with someone who really wants to do this. That's the first thing you've got to have in a co-founder. Like, if they don't want to do this, it's going to break down very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So it was so that was fine. But I was like, that's a bit annoying. So where do I look next? I went on all of the co-founder sort of matching sites that you could go on. So I was on the YC one. I think there's another one. I think, is it Co-founder Labs or Co-founder Matching? And I was on there, and I did take lots of calls, and actually I've made some really good friends from it.
Yeah.
And one person in particular, like, we stay in touch every day, and she's really wonderful. But it turned out that like we both weren't technical, and we also just didn't want to build in the same space. So that she's a founder friend rather than sort of co-founder, and that's still incredibly valuable. So I do think there is value in those sites. But Lotta and I ended up just matching like out the blue. It was a kind of situation. So I'd handed my notice in at Claren prior to meeting Lotta, which in hindsight was very bold. Like, I was just like, I'm going on this journey. I will find my co-founder. I had this hope and this delusion as well, to be quite honest. So I handed my notice in and knew I was going to do this. And Kitty, who is the CEO of Project Europe and who everyone should know because she is a wonderful human being, was sort of saying to me, we were on a call. She was like, oh, have you thought about Lotta as your co-founder? And I said, who's Lotta? And she said, oh, she's just this amazing software engineer I know. I think she's over in SF at the moment. I'll connect you guys. Anyway, so she did. And as you do, like, you put a half an hour call in your calendar. I think it was like a Saturday afternoon. Obviously, it was early for Lotta and it was late for me. And I logged on in the same way like I logged on to everything with those co-founder calls. I'm like interested to meet someone new. I was really interested in the fact that she was a woman because I hadn't spoken to many like female potential matches. But like, you log on and I was like, wow. Like, we instantly got on. Like, instantly. I think I found the only technical person in the world who's also planned weddings. So that was
rare combo.
Genuinely, that was like, I remember people laughed at me when I told them my idea. People were like, you're never going to find someone technical who wants to work on that with you. And I was like, okay, just watch me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I feel like
it's usually a good sign when people are telling you can't do it, keep doing it.
Yeah. No, literally. I was like, okay, you can have that opinion, but literally just watch me. Like, I'm going to find them. And she was like, when do we begin? Like, when do we start? And so we did work sprints.
And sorry, before the work sprint. So like, what do you think that, because obviously you spoke to a lot of co-founders, some are right, some you just kept as friends, and you finally started working with Lotta. Kind of what And I think it's a very difficult question. It's very hard because you can always doubt yourself, and it's very hard to know when you're like analyzing a person, and especially if you haven't worked with them before, it's a hard question to answer. What were the signals that made you think, okay, she's the right person to build with?
Yeah, absolutely. It is such a hard question. And honestly, like I was asking for advice from my mentors and like the Darcy advisors on that. And some of them were like, are you sure about this? Like, you don't know this girl. You don't know her. Like, we've been working on this together for months. We've been ideating for months. And now all of a sudden, like Lotta's in the picture. Like, how does that work? And I said, no, firstly, I feel it in my gut that this is right. I think trust your intuition.
Yeah.
The reason I think I felt it in my gut were a few things. So number one, that personal relationship. You always know when you just like someone and get along with them.
Yeah.
And we were instantly friendly and we instantly wanted to know about each other's lives. So we would speak about our family and we would speak about our friends and we'd speak about our personal interests. And we found that those really aligned. Secondly, we found that our working styles were very similar. So we're very communicative people. Even when we're not in the same country, we have blocked stand-ups for 10 minutes, 3 times a day, and we call each other all the time and we just keep each other in a loop. And that was really important to me. I want to know if she's struggling or if she's happy or if something's gone wrong or if it hasn't gone wrong. I wouldn't want a co-founder that hid it from me and then told me when it was like a catastrophe.
Yeah.
We're incredibly open about everything. And then the sort of the real golden flag, I think, for me was that she was ideating and asking me questions that I hadn't even thought about. So she was taking something and being like, but like, would that work with the vendors? Or actually, would the clients want that? Or have you thought about this avenue? Or why just weddings? Because at that time, Darcy was really sort of a wedding planning platform. And since we've expanded it to work for a variety of events, but she was already questioning, the whole the world in which Darcy existed in. And for me, that was really, really special because she'd digested it and thought about it and come back to me with these opinions. And she felt that I was receptive to that and I was receptive to that, and we could build the company from there. So I think it was seeing that proactiveness, seeing that she really cared, and that sort of basis of being really friendly and open and honest with each other that made me feel really, really confident that she was sort of the right person to build with.
Yeah, it's also kind of, it's a bit like someone who can already understand the business quickly and then already generate ideas is super valuable. And also almost, I mean, my assumption would be in some of those calls, it's very much would feel almost like a one way of like, you have this idea, you tell them the thing, but actually when it flips the other way and they're going, actually, like, I disagree with you with this, or maybe have you thought about this? It's probably really refreshing for you because you go, actually, this is lovely because I'm getting input. I'm not just like broadcasting.
Exactly. And I said to her on the first call, I'm looking for a co-founder. I'm not looking for a founding engineer. If I wanted a founding engineer or I wanted an employee who I wanted to give, instruction to, and of course they could be like, oh, I think we should do this rather than this, but, not changing the direction of the company as I've, thought about it. And I really wanted her to have that open space. I was like, if you disagree with this vision I've had for 3 months, just say it. Like, I don't know. This has honestly been a fever dream in my notebook and my mind. Like, please, like, nothing is concrete. Like, let's have that discussion. And she just took that and ran with it. And I thought that was really, really beautiful and like wonderful to see.
No, I love it. And the other question I have on that is, it's often hard if you're non-technical to evaluate someone who's technical because it's like, God knows.
Yeah.
But how did you do that process? Obviously, you got referred already, but like, what was that process like for you?
Honestly, I know, again, like I asked my advisors because I was like, I know she's saying she's technical, but I don't even know what she's talking about. So she's like, well, how am I meant to know? And it was, I think for a start, she would build things and show me what she'd built. And I thought, wow, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so she took the MVP that I'd built and she analysed it all, and it looked entirely different to everything I'd worked on for 3 months, literally within the space of a day.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big green flag. So right. So she that's where I was going wrong. Like, that's why Darcy wouldn't speak, because I hadn't turned that setting on. Or that's why, like, it was, all those things that I was like asking.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, like,
Connect to 11 Labs, please work.
Please. And like, and she figured it out. And then the other thing she did was she talked to my advisors, and some of those are technical people. So I, at the time, I'm sort of in cohort 1 for Null Fellows, which is a fellowship, they don't invest, they are more support and guidance, and they are wonderful. And I think if people don't know of them or haven't heard of them, definitely check them out. They are probably a huge contributor to the reason I started Darcy in the end. Like, I think they were that sort of idea to materialization flip for me, genuinely. So, but they went to Alto, they didn't know Lotta, but they were at the same university as her, and they spoke to her, and they kind of just gave me that reassurance. They were like, yeah, Han, like, she's great. She's really, really great. Like, she knows what she's talking about. Yeah. Look at what she's already done, and just trust that she really wants to do this. I think there's another thing to say, which is that, of course, you need a technical co-founder. Of course, like, you need someone who can build the product. But no one knows everything. And I'd rather have a co-founder who was learning and figuring it out than who knew everything but didn't care at all. And I think that we were both just on board with going through that process and learning. And we always knew that we could hire a founding engineer who could fill in the gaps that Lotta didn't know, in the same way that I could hire a founder's associate who was really great at things I wasn't great at. So it was just having that sort of understanding and that expectation that it just doesn't have to be like 100% all the time.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. And I think that a lot of founders or a lot of people generally are kind of too insecure to admit that. So I think it's really, really valuable.
Yeah.
And can you tell us more about, that fellowship thing that you spoke about? Because I think, you said it's so pivotal, so it'd be good to find out a bit more about it.
Yeah, of course. So I saw this is December, so this is when I'm like, wow, like, I'm going to be a founder and I'm going to go.
Your TikTok and Instagram reels are codified for that.
I was like Instagram reel founder bait. Like, my For You page is all these founders. And I was like, yes, it's found me. Like, this is my calling in life.
You got the social network clips playing.
Literally. And so at this time, I'm very on LinkedIn, and I've become a LinkedIn warrior since. But at the time, I wasn't a LinkedIn warrior. So, but I'm very on LinkedIn. I'm looking at a lot of founders, and I think because of that, I'd got targeted with this ad for this weird, almost cult-like thing that had these brackets, right? So I just kept seeing these brackets everywhere, and I was like, what is that? This? Like, that is weird. Click on it, and it goes it's like Null Fellows, the talent network for sort of extraordinarily ambitious under 25s in Europe. And I thought, sounds like me. I'm going to apply. And I never really knew what it was. In total honesty, I never knew what it was. And they said to me, you're through to interview. And I thought, great, I still don't know what this is, but I'm going to talk to them. And I was in SF at the time. So I literally was speaking to them, I think at like 3 a.m. SF time. And I was like, and I was like, guys, I'm going to be honest, like, I'm interviewing right now, but I don't know what this is. I don't want a job. I've got a job. So if it's a job, like, I don't need a job. And they were like, no, it's not a job. We just want to kind of find out more about you. And I was like, great, like, telling them all about me. And they were asking me really interesting questions about if I was to build, what would I build? And they were the first people that I ever spoke to Darcy about. And I was like, I've always had this idea to do this. And I've always wanted to do this. And they said, okay, do you think you'll do it? And I said, I don't know. I might do it. I've just started a new job. So, I'm just getting started here. And they're like, okay, we're going to help you do this. And I said, great. So the way they work, they have 2 kind of tracks. They have the group of amazing people that they vet and they put into really top startups around Europe. And that's kind of the bigger track. It's for people either still at university, getting internships, or it's people just out of university, getting them into amazing roles at amazing startups doing wonderful, wonderful things. And then they have a smaller track. So for cohort 1, which is what I was, there was, I think, 6 of us. Honestly, that was it. People who are amazing, like Celine from Suno is in there. Like there's YC founders, like wonderful, wonderful people. And we would do weekly calls, and it was Sunday at 10 p.m.
Wow.
Sunday at 10 p.m. because that was like San Francisco. We had to have everyone come in. So 10 p.m. on a Sunday, I would sit down with these people and we would set up our goals for the week. And I was so inspired by that because I felt like my weeks were away with me. I was working, obviously, full-time job. I was trying to live a normal life, but I would hold myself to that Sunday meeting, and it would be an opportunity for me to tell everyone what I was doing over the weekend to work on Darcy, and what I was doing to try and find a co-founder, and what I was doing to think about my next steps. And they would offer support and they would offer intros, and it was wonderful. They also just do really cool things is the other thing I think was my point to say on them. So in April, they took us to Stockholm. We went to an island. They hired an island. They put all 40 members of the cohort on this island, and we would be canoeing and kayaking and running around the island. It was just
This
literally
feels like Love
incredible.
Island, but for kind of founders.
Yeah, it's like
Honestly.
startup Love
Yeah.
Island. Like, honestly, I was half expecting them to like drop an investor like on a corner of the island, and like, everyone has
Exactly.
like ran and
Yeah,
like
you can raise your seed funding with this.
if you find the investor you can
Exactly.
raise.
Yeah.
Like that was
Jeez. Lord of the Flies
yeah.
style.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. And then they also, like, when we just started Darcy, so Lotta and I, Lotta's now in cohort 2, they took us out to Berlin for a month. We lived in this apartment together. And then they hired an office, and that was so confidence boosting for me. I felt when I just started Darcy like a bit of an alien, and I would look in my house in London at everyone going to work in the morning and walking to the tube, and I was sat there like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And actually I went to Berlin with them, and I was with founders, and I was with them, and it calmed me. And I thought, no, other people do this too. You aren't weird. You're doing this because you want to do this. Like, everything is fine. And I think and I'm so grateful for that support.
Yeah. So do you think the biggest things were kind of the accountability of the weekly updates, then also just kind of, it's kind of like almost like, what is it, postural echo, where you're kind of like learning off other people, and you kind of actually like, this is normal. There are other people doing this. That kind of calms you down. That makes a lot of sense.
Totally.
And then Project Europe, could you tell us a bit about that and like how that whole story kind of panned out? Because and maybe also you could maybe touch on, because obviously they've built a really good like distribution side off Stebbings, and then also the stuff that I've seen Kitty and stuff post about, loads of really good like videos on LinkedIn with different events around Europe. So it'd be great to hear your kind of thoughts on that.
Of course. One of the first things that Lotta and I bonded over was Kitty and Project Europe. For me, it was like the North Star. I would really not have wanted to take investment from anyone else. And that was, as our first check, like that was my number one. And I always knew it. And the reason I always knew it was because I feel very intertwined with Kitty. And I think that she's very much the reason that I'm sort of where I am today and where Darcy is. So Kitty and I actually met when I was at Oxford, when I was Pres of Oxford, and we were working together while she was at EF, and she was doing incredible work to try and get more women to join their cohorts, which obviously is an amazing thing to be doing. And obviously, because I was Pres of Oxford, had access to lots of phenomenal women who were perhaps going to go into corporate, and we were trying to show them that it doesn't just you don't just have to do that, you can do other things. So we would go down to the offices, and they would come up and do ideation sessions, and I just absolutely loved working with Kitty. And she's one of those people that you meet and you realize, my goodness, like, I have to stay in touch with this person. I have to stay in touch with her, because I just think that she's going to be very important to my life. And there was a point around a year before I ended up leaving to start Darcy, when I called her and I said, I really think I want to do this. And she said, this is such a funny time you're calling me. I'm just setting up Project Europe. I've left EF. I'm doing this. And I said, wow, this sounds amazing. And then we had a big chat about where I was at. And I said, I need to work in events a bit more. I haven't done enough yet. I don't feel like I'm there yet, but like, I'll come back to you. And so I feel like I had that mentorship throughout that time. She was one of the first people I called when I realized I wanted to do this. And she really guided me. Like I said, she introduced me to Lotta. I think her network is phenomenal. She's also incredibly kind and just reassuring. And I like, words can't express. She is a fantastic mentor. Project Europe itself, the reason I love it so much is that they never sell you being a founder. They pick the founders they want to work with. It's really hard to be backed by them, because I think they have like 24 companies. I don't think it's not much at all. I love their ethos of building in Europe and boosting like European founders. I think that, you don't have to go to SF to raise, or you don't have to go to SF to build a company. You can do it in Europe. And it's vital for Europe that we have founders building here. I don't know why there's not more emphasis on that. It seems ridiculous to me. So I really align with that. And the fact that they, like you said, like Harry, the network of Harry and the Taish 20 VC, and it's led by two amazing women, Kitty and Jade, it felt so right. So Lotta and I got introduced by Kitty. We bonded over the fact we really wanted Project Europe, and then we ended up sort of signing that in early June, which was like
mental,
like elated.
Congrats.
It was like the real high. How it kind of works it is in terms of on now being in the cohort. So we have a massive group with everyone. It doesn't work like cohorts. It doesn't work sort of in, you're in and then you're out, and you're nothing to them because you've raised your seed or whatever. They support you whatever you need at the time that you need it. So we are going out to continue our pre-seed very soon. And they are at our beck and call for everything we need for that. But there's other companies that are way further ahead. They're raising a Series A, and Kitty and Jade are still there for them, helping them out with that. So that's the support they offer. They do, like you said, they do these co-working sessions. We've got one coming up, and they do them in crazy places. The one coming up is going to be really, really cool. We're going somewhere really. We're going to Italy. They've got a village.
Amazing. Yeah,
we've got a village in Italy. I want to say it's near Milan, and they're going to bring all the founders there. Nice. We're going to work there for about 5 days, and then we're going to go to Italian Tech Week. So that's just an example. Yeah. So like we'll be co-working together, working together, like learning together. They put on weekly like sessions with these incredible founders. They like you saw like you'll have seen online, they hire out cinemas in like Leicester Square, and they do Aperol evenings, and they've always, I think, tried to make the startup world more accessible, especially to women. Like they aren't just running hardcore hackathons for like 50 hours and you must like sit in a bunker and like work, because that is so intimidating to like, I would look at that and be like, what the hell? Like I just, you know what I mean? They do Aperol evenings, at a bar.
Stark contrast. Monster Energy versus Aperol.
So. Exactly, right? Like have an Aperol, chat to the founders. That is way more approachable. Yeah. Even if you don't end up going into startups, you can talk to people in startups in that environment. It's not hardcore, like testosterone energy.
No.
And I've always really, really valued and respected that. I think they are working at an early stage to just make that world just easier to sort of get into. I think it's phenomenal what they're doing. I really do.
No, I love it. And there was something interesting you said at the start, which was when you were on the phone to Kitty, that you kind of, you had the kind of rough idea, but then also you thought you weren't ready in terms of the experience, like you hadn't have enough experience events wise to then go out and build it, which I think is a really interesting insight, because I think it's very hard to know when you're ready. And then even sometimes when you have an idea, to then pause and say, actually, I need to go back into the domain and get more experience. So what made you go, yes, I have this idea? I think a lot of people would have gone, yeah, let me just start. What was the thing which made you go, actually, I'm going to wait, go back, get more experience, and then start?
I think that it was firstly driven by a sort of loyalty to the clients I was working with. So let's say that they had like all these upcoming celebrations that, let's say at that time, were honestly like months away. They were, weeks even away. It would have been, I want to see it through. I've always had a thing of I want to see it through. I wouldn't let those people down, and I didn't want to. And I had a personal, I wanted to, I like inside of myself, I wanted to see all that planning that we'd done as a team and all that effort we'd put into making sure that those flowers were perfect and that walkway looked exactly like it was planned to, and that the couple were happy or the client was happy. I wanted that experience. I wanted that book to close. And I felt that in October, November time, when the season was done, that had happened and that I'd had a lot of learnings along the way. And I felt that sort of that chapter was done and I could readjust my thinking. It was also that, I wanted there's planning experience and then there's execution experience. And I think that I knew that I would have another 6 months of that execution experience because we were going into season. And being able to stay calm.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Being able to stay calm under pressure was that. And it has served me so well being a founder. I think Lotta and I are very, very good at just keeping a calm hat. And things will go, whoa. And you're like, okay, it's fine. Yeah. Because we've had experiences on site with brides or, this is the biggest day of their life, right? Like you cannot be flapping. You cannot be. If the production team, if the planning team is stressed, then everything else is going to go whack. So like you have to be level-headed and you have to be calm. And that has really taught me well. So it was knowing that I needed that experience. It was knowing that I needed to kind of complete the second part of the learning, which was the sort of execution. And it was that I would have the time then as well. Like I would have that little lapse where the season would die down a little bit and I would be able to readjust my thinking and sort of look at it with a sort of clear head.
Yeah, it's so true. I think it's very, there aren't loads of jobs which have that seasonality. Yes, there's flux and change, but if you're in sales, you're always selling. So I think it's a good point about you can be somewhere for 2 years, but then actually you have, a year's worth of planning and then a year's worth of execution. So it's a good point.
Yeah.
And then back to the product itself. So you said, 5 clients at the moment in terms of that kind of like early pilot and then expanding to 30 with the beta. What are some of the most exciting use cases you're seeing?
We've got some really, really cool stuff going on at the moment. So I was talking a little bit earlier about the different types of events that we're we're running. And the fact that, yes, Darcy started as sort of a wedding concierge platform, and it was, you know, the planner in your pocket for couples. It has developed so far from that, and I'm really excited about it. I won't be able to share too many details because we're still building it all out, but we have a couple of really exciting weddings. Some sort of quite high profile ones that you'll definitely be seeing a lot of in media, which is incredible for us and great exposure. And also they're just lovely, lovely people. And I'm just so excited to work with them. And then we have an amazing birthday party for someone who works very cool, like music industry. So I'm very excited about the DJs and all the kind of entertainment we're putting on. Some really, really cool headliners that I think I just can't wait to be there. I will be with my walkie-talkie, like in the background, like bopping along, honestly. And then we also are doing these enterprise clients. One of them is Freight. So the sort of Helsinki-based, like young mavericks, like accelerator. They have an enormous university building in central Helsinki. Lotta and I went there last week for a site visit, and we're going to be doing 2 events with them, one for their cohort and also a very unusual take on a demo day is probably all I can say right now.
Okay, interesting.
Don't think, you know, white box and white screen and like just benches. Think cigars, smoky room, like haze, all that stuff. And I'm really excited for it. And then the final one we're doing is an experience. So taking a big group away for a few nights and giving them a taste of like a trip that is sort of a once in a lifetime experience. So, and all that's running on Darcy. And I'm so proud of that. I think that we've always said that every event looks different, but the rails underneath it are the same. And even in these 5 events, we've been able to prove that, which I think is a great sort of kudos to the early stages of the building.
And also interested to see, because I think, you know, you see with a lot of like law firms as an example, where some of them started selling the tech and then now they're kind of doing the law, like being a service provider as well, like doing the actual legal work as well. And do you think in the future you guys will sell the tech and then almost sell a planner like using the tech, or like what's your thinking with how the company evolves?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said that the future of events is hybrid. I know people in SF are so hardcore on the future is AI, the future is AI. Like, and I disagree in the event space because Darcy doesn't have legs. That is like the one thing I will say. Darcy cannot get up and go and move those flowers. And she can't get up and go and tell the caterer that dish needs a wipe, or that actually we need to change the look of that. She can do everything on the admin side. She can do wonderful work on proactively helping people plan and think ahead and budget manage and timeline manage and keep people on track, not only for the day of the event, but also in the lead up. And for the beta particularly, and it will be sort of a sort of upgraded plan in the future, hybrid exists the planning stages too. So there will be Darcy, and there will be the human planner just sat right underneath. So we have got 10 event experts for the beta, and they will be our wonderful sort of underlayer. If anything falls through, it'll go to one of our people who have been in production for years. They've been in floristry for years. They've been an event producer for years, and they pick it up. And so nothing is dropped because tech goes wrong. There will be things that are not ready in September and that we have to go live with, and we accept that, and we want to do that because you have to start somewhere. But there's that underlayer that will make sure everything remains on track and always will. We also are building out for the future this on the day coordinator network. They're what I call event engineers. So they're the people, they're almost like a Darcy director. They pick up the Philo, which has the timeline, it has the contact sheet, it has the load-ins and the load-outs, and it has everything that the bride and groom or the client had imagined the day to be like. And then they execute it. They are the point of contact. They know exactly how events should run and how this specific event should look. And they will know the client because they'll have had those intro calls, all of them working with them in the lead up as that sort of underlayer on Darcy for the last few months. So I see, like I said at the start, event planning being seamless and frictionless from the idea to the end, to that last dance. And on the event, that requires that human layer. So for us, we really see a world in which event planning for people will move more to a sort of execution layer where AI can't help, and sort of almost adapting and jumping in where necessary the work that the AI does on the planning side.
No, I love that, and I love having the experts. I saw a post on X the other day, and it was a guy saying that what Airbnb should do is have this concept where like you message like an expert in an area where you can kind of pay, you bill someone out and you can pay like a foodie to say, recommend me 10 places. So I think it's a similar parallels, which is quite cool.
Thank you.
And now just a bunch of like more quickfire questions.
Yeah.
Would love to know what you think, what you kind of let's call it your hot take in the event space.
Oh, let me think. Hot take in the event space.
And it can't be everyone should use Darcy.
I would say, oh my goodness, I'm trying to think. This is the worst quickfire ever.
No, hot takes are hard because it's hard to find something that which you kind of strongly believe in that others don't.
I would say value your guest experience even more highly than you would value your design. The worst thing in the world is being sat in a beautifully designed marquee where budget's clearly been spent on the florals, but there's 2 waiters serving your food and it's cold by the time it arrives.
Yeah. No, love that. And what is the thing which you and Lotta disagree on the most, do you think?
Oh my goodness. What do we disagree on the most? We disagree on pizza. Do you know, we disagree on pizza. And it's really rubbish because I always want to order a pizza and he doesn't like it. And it's like the perfect food when you're working late, right? Like you just want to order a pizza. Let's just order a Domino's and then and it's not messy. You can just eat it and
yeah.
And she's always like, no.
What does she want? What does she prefer? Pasta.
She's like, no, let's get a pasta or let's get like an Indian. I'm like, God.
To be fair, Indian is a good shout, but pasta, also that's just curry's going to go everywhere, all on your laptop.
I'm eating cold pizza for breakfast every morning now because she doesn't like it. Oh, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare, honestly.
It's a good one. I was not expecting pizza. And what other kind of, if you had to pick 3 tools which you're using every day that you couldn't live without, what would those be? AI tools.
3 tools I can live without. Granola, number 1. I've also just got a Pocket and I'm really loving that.
Their ads, I see that ever. Tell us more, like your experience.
Yeah. So Pocket's like hardware granola. You have it in your pocket. It is, I've got a pink one. I really like it. And the idea is that, I think, so for us, we're on site a lot. We're with, meeting investors in person or meeting clients in person. And it's just really good because you just flip it on and it records it. And then in a similar to Granola, it will generate those notes. But it seems to be very, very accurate. From my very early beta testing, I found that for the in-person stuff where I felt like maybe Granola was at the bottom of my handbag on my phone or a bit further away from the conversation, the Pocket is with me all the time. If I'm walking around a site or I'm grabbing a coffee with someone, like it's on me and I really like that. So definitely granola, obviously like Claude and ChatGPT, like I have my agents running everything all the time. It's why my laptop feels like it's on fire constantly. And I think the next one I'd say would be Dripify. So I use it for outbounding people a lot. I've managed to speak to a lot of our vendors through outbounding in Dripify. I think there's a lot of research that can be done on, how to get people to reply to you. But I always think like just avoid the least salesy tactic ever. Ask them about how they get their clients at the moment. Or one that's worked really well for me is, asking them about conversion rates. Are you swamped with emails all the time because people don't know how much your venue costs and you find that actually the conversion rate is super low. So I think we can help with that. I think let's have a chat or let me come and see you. And that's worked nicely.
Yeah, no, super good. And I mean, I do outbound all the time. I love it. And I'm curious, like what's working for you outbound wise? Like what channels, like, that's a great example of a message. Interested if there are any other nuggets or bits you want to share.
Yeah. We used to use Instantly a lot at the previous startup, and I found that to be really successful as well. Because we're so early, and because the beta is limited in the number of clients we can take on, we're slightly cautious of basically not over-promising. So I don't want to start outbounding when we just can't take it on. I want to do everything well, and I'd rather grow really quickly, but in a controlled manner than just absolutely burn ourselves and the company out by just, spreading ourselves too thin. So we haven't got on it yet, but I have found Instantly really good for those cold emails. And again, just use pictures. Use pictures because people feel they can relate to you. Say something personal about yourself. Say like, hey, like I'm Hannah, like I had like crunchy nut for breakfast today. And it makes people smile. And actually you just need to build that human bond. I think people are so detached. They can be so detached and it's all about work. Like if you have that connection with someone and you can really get through the screen to them, then they'll be so much more likely to reply to you.
Yeah, I love the pictures. I remember when I was first doing sales, I would send a picture of me with a whiteboard in different
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
Just like it's stuff like weird, cringy stuff like
Yeah.
that typically
Yeah.
works.
It really does.
And final two questions. The first is, what's something that I haven't asked you that you want me to ask you? And then the second one is, who else do you know in your network that you think would be a really good interview?
Something you haven't asked me that I want you to ask me is, when can you try Darcy? And the answer is September.
Yeah, amazing.
This is you can be one of our
Perfect.
Darcy.
Perfect.
It's 29 left, guys.
Exactly. Great. I need to think of something to plan now.
Yeah, and the last question, who you should interview, I've got to say Kitty from Project Europe. I think she's phenomenal.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such a pleasure to chat.
Thank you so much, Noah. Thanks so much.